Welcome again to another live Q&A. I just wanted to give everyone a chance to log on. So if you're watching the video, hey everyone, it's Zoe. I think this should be working now. Yes, perfect. I'm just trying a new format by doing my live on the desktop rather than on my phone. So we'll see how we go. Um, as per usual, if you're watching the replay, just skip forward a few minutes and I'll give everyone a chance to log on. We've got lots of questions tonight, heaps and heaps of questions, which is awesome. We're going to have a chat about a non-diet approach, even when you have diet restrictions because of health issues. We're also going to have a chat about how do we focus on movement and get back into exercise, given that we've been in lockdown. Around another question from Nick was about motivation. How do you get it back and keep it? And then also a question on post-op recovery. So we're going to talk about all of those things. If you're here, just say hi, comment, let me know how you're going, and otherwise I'll just bring up all the things I need to while we get everybody on. If you have a question as well as we go through, please just pop it in the comments and I will be able to check it as we go through and respond. Okay. Um, all right. There's all these new things that you can do with Facebook streaming live videos. Like we could do polls and we can do questions. So I'm quite excited to have a play with this. It's a new thing that they've just introduced, which will be good. So let me know if you're here, and I will say hi. Give everyone a little bit more time to log in. So what I wanted to maybe answer first was to have a look at Victoria's comment and question about the non-diet mentality. And the reason I wanted to focus on Victoria's question first is I know that she normally can't make it because she is in the US and the time difference doesn't allow her. So Victoria said to us when I asked what questions there were for tomorrow night. I think it was a really interesting question. So Victoria said, I want to know how to practice a non-diet mentality while monitoring my eating because of health conditions not related to my sleeve. Now, I understand that this is kind of a tricky kind of question, perhaps, a little bit of a tricky thing to get your head around. So I wanted to explain, first of all, what a non-diet mentality was, because I think that's really important. So basically, a non-diet mentality is when you focus rather than on what you're eating or weight, we're thinking about intuitive eating. Okay, so intuitive eating, the non-diet approach, they're all kind of terms that are used interchangeably. So intuitive eating is really a focus on letting go of weight and calories and restriction and actually learning to listen to your natural signs to start and stop eating. So are you hungry? When are you satisfied? So it's about eating mindfully and really noticing how different foods affect your body. It's also about enjoyable movement. So finding ways of physical movement that you actually enjoy, that make you feel good, that you feel comfortable doing, that you develop confidence in as well, and things that you don't feel embarrassed about, but actually give you life and sustain life and increase your energy. And then it's also about body positivity. So, three things: intuitive eating, enjoyable movement, and body positivity. So, it's understanding really that health and fitness and well-being and successful living, it really comes in a diverse range of shapes and sizes. And rather than thinking about a number, a perfect number, we need to really discover how to nurture your body from a place of acceptance. Okay. So that is kind of non-diet mentality in a nutshell. And I know perhaps where Victoria's question is coming from, because some people think or non-dieting kind of gets explained as if you can eat whatever you want, whenever you want, and it's totally fine. Um, but it's not really like that. So it's actually, rather than just saying you can eat whatever you want, whenever you want, it's about checking in with your body and saying, what do I want to eat? What do I really feel like? What's going to make me feel good? What's going to help me reach my goals? And so what we wanted to focus on, I think, with Victoria is kind of going, Victoria, I think that a non-diet mentality can be achieved whilst looking at those maybe perhaps restrictions that you need to, or things you need to think about in terms of your diet because of health issues. Because I think in my mind, it's all about mindset. So you're going to be thinking, okay, so what are the things that I want to eat that are going to help me nourish my body, that are going to do the best for my body that I possibly can. So, for example, if you need to have a lower sodium diet because of high blood pressure, you can still go, okay, so what do I really feel like? And marry that up with your goals. So, rather than feeling that it's a punishment that you need to eat less salt, thinking, how can I do the best for my future self? How can I be eating the best for my body? And so kind of marrying that mindset. And actually, when I looked at the three first questions, which were from Jenny, who's here, hey Jenny, from Nick, and Victoria, I actually think all three of these questions boil down to mindset. So, Victoria, I will post a couple of resources that should help you as a place to start. One of those is Glenn McIntosh, and I've spoken about him lots before, but he has a whole bunch of resources that are helpful. And actually, I messaged him, and he has just got back to me as we speak. And he sent me a video, so I will send it on to you. And he said it's not exactly around that, but it's similar because it's about how to apply intuitive eating if you have food intolerances. So, whilst it's not necessarily foods that you can't eat for a health issue, it kind of is along the same vein. And so that was really lovely of Glenn to get back to me, and I'll post it so that you guys can all have a look as well. Natalie's joined us too. Nice to see you, Natalie, all the way from the UK. I hope that you guys are doing okay with COVID, and things are starting to settle down a little bit, because I know that was really rough for you. And okay, so I was talking about motivation and mindset. So, Jenny, you're here. Your question was exercise regimes and movement, having been in isolation. And also, Nick, she asked about weight regain and how to regain motivation. And all three, so Victoria's question on how do I apply a non diet mentality, Jenny's question on exercise, and Nick's question on weight regain and how to regain motivation. I honestly think all of these three, they come back down to mindset. So I'll give you an example. For all three, I think you need to be thinking about your goals. So, what are your overall goals? What is the future you that you want to have? To get to that overall goal, and I would really urge you not to pick a weight goal here for your overall goal. What do you want to be doing with yourself? What do you want to be able to do with your body? What are things that are positive to you? How do you want to be spending your day? And really kind of focusing on what are those big goals? What are the big overall goals? How can you look after your health? Okay. Then you want to break it down. So, how are you going to get there? What are you actually going to do to achieve that? So, for example, when we think about Nick's question, which was how do you regain motivation and stop weight regain, I actually think we need to go back to basics. Okay, so Nick, there is a checklist which I will put in the comment section, which is looking at the 4 pillars and all of the different habits that you need to be doing most days to be really successful in the long term. And so just checking in, having a little bit of a reflection about what are the things that you are doing really well, what are the things that you might need to work on, and from there, then setting your your more smart goals. So you have your big, lofty overall goal of where I want to be, how I see myself in 12 months, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever it is. And then you want to break that down. So it's really, really important to have those SMART goals. And everybody's heard of SMART goals, but what's actually going to be achievable? What's something that you can do every day? What are those small little habits that you can chip away at? Um, and I think that's going to be really important, Nick, in terms of finding that motivation to get going again. That's your big overall goal, and then actually putting it into action, the smaller goals. So Jenny, for you, I thought it was interesting your question about movement. And I actually wrote down a few little notes because I think it's really important with movement in particular that we focus on a few things. One of those is that you find movement that you actually enjoy or you can learn to enjoy. Because if you don't like it, you're not going to keep doing it. So there's no point in punishing yourself and doing, I don't know, some exercise class that you don't actually like. Because if you do that, you're not probably not going to be able to keep doing it for a long time. So focusing instead on finding something that you enjoy, or if there's an exercise that you find difficult, but you like the feeling afterwards, that's another way to think about it. How do I feel when I do actually go and do that exercise class? It's really challenging, it's really tough, but afterwards I feel like $1,000,000. I get that exercise high. Okay, so focusing on movement, we want to focus on enjoyment first. We want to focus on something that you actually want to do second, so enthusiasm, movement you want to do. Um, Efficacy as well, so movement that you feel confident in, because again, it's good to challenge yourself and find new skills, but you need a balance of doing things that you feel confident in and finding that challenge, because otherwise, if you make it too hard and you start everything from scratch, it can be really difficult to pull it all together and keep it going in the long term. You want to find something that you don't feel embarrassed about. So, for example, I would have lots of clients who would say to me, I need to swim because it gets off my weight off my joints and it's the best for me, but I feel really embarrassed about it. And so instead, we might find another option or a different time where they could go when there are less people around, or a different pool where there are less people so they feel a bit more confident. And then the fifth thing is finding a way to empathetically problem solve. So, how do you overcome barriers? So, Jenny, I ask you, because you're here, what is actually stopping you from moving? Because ideally, what we need to be doing is 60 minutes of movement a day. Okay, and that seems like a lot, but especially at the moment when our incidental activity is low, we really need to be putting time aside to get out and go for a walk, jump on an exercise bike, go for a swim. Although I went for a swim on Sunday and I almost froze my face off. It was like an ice cream headache in an instant. So maybe swim in a pool rather than the ocean at the moment. And so, Jenny, tell us, what is the thing that is stopping you? Because if we can't figure that out, it's going to be really difficult to figure out how to motivate you to keep moving and how to fit that into your day. Okay. I will also send through a resource which I think is really good, and it is again from Glenn. He has a problem solving worksheet which helps you to sort of tie in your motivations and those overall goals with the barriers that are stopping you from doing it. So, Jenny, I don't think you're lazy. I don't, and I'm glad you don't hate exercise. I don't think you're lazy. I think there's something else. We must be able to dig and find a way, and maybe troubleshoot what it is. Maybe there's a way that we can schedule it into your day. Maybe there's a way that we can get your family on board. And I know that Nathan is starting to train again. And maybe that's a way that we can sort of motivate you to get up and do that exercise. Oh, the Wii Fit, awesome! So connecting the Wii Fit this week, which is really good too. So Jenny, I'll send you that problem solving worksheet too, because I think it's really good. It's very practical, and Glenn also has another video on mindset. So I think because we were talking about mindset overall, that I think, talking about mindset, you can watch that video. It gives you some really good practical tips about how to change your mindset. And what I like about the way that he explains it is he's talking about mindset is not just one switch that you flick on and off. You can't just all of a sudden find motivation and be 100% motivated and perfect with everything. That's kind of that diet mentality rather than the non-diet is much more gentle. And so thinking about mindset as like a series of switches or a series of knobs that you turn up and turn down. So we're constantly working on our mindset. Awesome. I won't send you mood mind sheets, Jenny, but you can do this problem solving one. It's very practical. Awesome. And I want you all to meet Adela. Adela is here. Hi, Adela. It's lovely to see you. Adela is giving me a hand. So I will actually introduce you to Adela and Courtney and Bella. I've got three lovely new grad dietitians who are going to be giving me a hand with some blogs and some social content. And so it's lovely to have you in the group. So you will see, I'll do a post in the next couple of days when I get Bella in, but I'll introduce it all to Courtney and Adela and Bella as well. So thanks, Adela, for joining in the live Q&A. It's nice to see some new faces. And Natalie, I am also really glad to hear that work has calmed down a lot. And hopefully that means picking at food will stop and you can get back into a routine. And again, I think, that comes back to that weight regain and that motivation and the habits. Like, how do you keep a routine when something has happened as crazy as this pandemic and basically changed all of our routines, and put a lot of stress on people? And it's okay to recognize that as well and to be kind of gentle with yourself and then go, okay, but it's not going to continue forever. I'm not going to let myself get out of this routine forever. Or how can I adjust my routine to make it work for me again? Okay. So hopefully that's helpful, Nick and Jenny, and who was the other one? Oh, Victoria. So let me know if you need any more information, but I will post those other resources in the comment section of this live Q&A once I get off as well, because there are some really good ones. Now, Katrina, are you here? I can't see if you are here, but Katrina posted asking about post-op recovery. So the lovely Katrina has just had her sleeve done, and so I wanted to give Katrina a little bit of an idea of what she's in for. So I need all of you, please, to tell her what she's in for as well by adding a couple of comments. So basically, Katrina, what I thought I would do is kind of go through the next sort of 2-month period just quite quickly. So essentially, what I would see in clinic is at 2 weeks post-op, some people would come in for their 2-week post-op appointment and they would jump off the couch, run in, and they were not sore. They never had any pain. They were doing fine, like nothing had ever happened, right? Other people, you would watch them get off the couch and they'd be holding their tummy and they'd like push off the couch quite gingerly and they were clearly still sore. And so there's no way of telling which way you will be. Some people have very minimal pain, other people have lots of pain. But what I would see is that by the month post-op, most people have very little pain and the actual wound has healed. The swelling has started to go down. You can move a bit more freely. Obviously, for up to 6 to 8 weeks is where we are looking at being really gentle with our new stomach, because up to 6 to 8 weeks after the surgeries, when a leak could still occur where the staple line has a little hole in it, and we don't want that to happen. So it is really important that for the first 2 months, really, we're following the post-op recommendations. And so they are, and this might be slightly different with every surgeon, but what we would do with our surgeons is 2 weeks of fluids. Okay, and that's any fluids. So what we call full fluids, where you can have milks, you can have thin broths, you can have a bit of juice if it suits you. Water, obviously, tea. We try not to have too much coffee because caffeine can slow the healing of those wounds. And then we move on to purees. Okay, so basically, it doesn't have to be blended, but it does have to be easily squashable with a fork. That's the best way, or like baby food. So if you would feed it to your 6-month-old who's just starting on solids, that's probably what you want to go with. And so you can blend things, but you can also just mash it. And I can definitely send you a link to a couple of resources that will help with that too, so that you have an idea of what you can and can't eat on those first 2 phases. So 2 weeks fluids, 2 weeks purees, and then we graduate to starting on solid foods or getting back into normal foods again. And you won't jump in straight away on the first day of week 5 and have a steak sandwich, but you'll start with softer foods and then gradually get back up to eating most foods. Okay, there are probably things that won't go so well. And what I always say with this is try something new. If it doesn't work, like maybe it makes you feel uncomfortable, maybe you bring it back up again, quite a normal part of the process. If it doesn't work for you, leave it alone for a few days or a week and then come back and try it again, because food tolerances do change over time after surgery as that swelling is going down. So I always like to think of the sleeve as you've gone from having a big sack and then you have a little pipe, and that pipe, because of the wound down here, it's swollen, so it's kind of swollen shut. And as the swelling goes down, you can eat a little bit more because there's a bit more room in there. Okay, and so we just need to wait for that wound to heal and the swelling to go down before you're able to manage things. And that's why your portion size increases, and why often what you'll find at the end of a stage is that you're starting to feel a bit hungry because, for example, the fluids aren't sticking with you as long as they used to. And so that's kind of a sign to me when somebody comes in at their 2-week post-op appointment that they're ready to move on to purees. Okay. All right, I'm just going to go back. Oh, Jenny, you agree with me. Food intolerance you haven't had before, but you have to keep trying because it gets better. Perfect. Jenny didn't have much pain, but Jenny and Beck, energy. Yeah, for the first 4 weeks or so, feeling quite tired. And I think it's important to remember that you've just put your body through a massive surgery and it is trying to heal, and it's also trying to adjust to the fact that you're not able to eat very much. And so you don't have a lot of calories going in. And so that energy drop is a real thing. And it's really normal. So don't worry, just rest, let yourself recover. Remember that you've had the big surgery, and so if you're tired, sleep. If you need a bit more sleep, sometimes you don't get good quality sleep because of the pain as well for the first couple of weeks. So just be gentle on yourself. Okay. Jenny's mentioned hair loss too, and that does happen. It is a common side effect. It doesn't happen for everybody, and it happens at different times for everyone as well, where you might lose some hair, but that's because your body again is focusing on healing and energy, for your main organs, and then therefore things like hair not so important to survival. So your body often drops that. It's a sign, hair loss can happen with any sort of stress, and the surgery is a really big stress that you're putting your body through. So hopefully that helps for Katrina. I think any experiences that you can remember, guys, will be really helpful. And I'm sure Katrina will probably have questions as she goes through. And, you guys are always so supportive and helpful with your comments and your answers to questions. So I'm sure we will get her through pretty easily. Okay. I just wanted to go back because I think I missed a comment from Beck before. Beck, you bought a hula hoop. I love it. Um, the main worker's picking it up from the floor every time I drop it. Do you know, we had to do some filming for a subject that is taught within my team and called skill acquisition, and they were talking about that we had to film all sorts of sports things, and one of them was hula hooping, and one of the boys was the most uncoordinated thing I've ever seen. So much so that he ended up with his arms up here, flapping them around, trying to turn the hula hoop. So we want to see, Beck, how you go. Can we have a video, please? I would love to see that. If anybody else has any ideas for other ways we can exercise, please post them as well. I think there's been a few articles that have been shared over the last couple of months with COVID about exercise that you can do at home. So, I think Jenny, they might help you as well. And, once we can get back outside, do a few more things, get back into work where you're doing that incidental activity, I'm sure that you'll start to see that weight come off again. Okay. Any other questions? Because otherwise I think we are almost done. I will post all of those resources. There's quite a lot of resources because you guys had really big questions. And I think if you want to continue the conversation about one of those questions in particular, we can do so. And maybe it's talking about the non-diet mentality. Although what I think was interesting in Glenn's response to me, he said this is actually a really tricky question because it is difficult to say you can eat what you feel like when you need to be careful about what you eat for your health. So obviously that is a little bit tricky, but I think it's a really, really good point that that Victoria brought up. So I'll post that to the whole group so you can see it, his video. Beck, yeah, no, it's so not happening for me. Good. Got a friend, a circus performer for tips. Awesome. It's all in the hips, I hear, Beck. It's all in the hips. All right. So on that note, let's all go and practice our hula hooping. Send in our videos, please. Also, just to wrap up for things that have been happening this week, this week's challenge, we have two. So the first one was to pick one to all. So you choose your own adventure. But also what I added to the mix this week was I have a whole heap of samples of the Feel Good protein, and so I wanted to send some out to people. And so I thought if you are posting your average water intake, if it's above 1.5 liters, so ideally do it on an app where you can show me. So for example, in my Garmin one, I can track water, or if you do it in the drink water reminder, there's a whole bunch of water tracking apps. Post a photo at the end of the week, show me, and then I will send out some samples of the protein, the the clear protein powders for you to try. Okay. Also, what's been happening in the group, we had a chicken and veggie soup recipe. I put a whole bunch of tips up because I was talking with a client last week who's 4 years post-op and just needed a little reminder of all of those key things we all need to be focusing on, because I think the further out after surgery you get, the more things kind of just tend to slide back into old habits, or you kind of forget what you should be focusing on. So I put a little post up about that. We also had Katrina, who's been out on an amazing hike. So I want to see what you've all been up to over the long weekend, if you were able to get out, because I think we are starting to see some of those restrictions being lifted a bit. So it'll be good to get out and about and get active again. Okay, so I think that's it. It's about 7 o'clock. Let me know if there's any other questions for next time. I will introduce you properly to Adela and Courtney and Bella, who I am super excited about. And that means with a little bit of an extra hand, there'll be lots of super duper things coming up in the future. Okay, so I will see you all in 2 weeks' time for the next live. Okay, otherwise I'll chat to you soon in the group. All right, cheers, guys.